Welcome to the Further North podcast, your weekly dose of the North Melbourne Footy Club. My name is Josh, and this is a fan-run podcast doing match previews, reviews, and everything North. Let's get it started.
Look at Archer come in and go bang! Nathan Thompson gets the fist pumping and goes Cops of it. We're heading to the finals.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Further North podcast. I'm going to start this one off before we get into whatever that was that happened on Saturday. I'm a bit sick at the moment. I'm not at my peak, but I'm going to battle through this one because there's too much stuff to chat about. I got a cup of tea next to me. Might take a little sip as we go. So you guys grab one too. Let's just sit down and we'll find some positives and we'll go over some negatives of that performance against the Brisbane Lions. But yeah, strap in because I might be rough this one. So obviously, gather round over in Adelaide. We played the Brisbane Lions and got done by 75 points in the end. A couple of different things to think about this one, to be honest. I've seen two sides of the fan base here, some being incredibly negative, some incredibly positive, and we're going to chat about it and see which is right, basically. But what we're going to start off doing, as usual, is the team lineup. So we got Griffin Logue and we got Ben Mackay back in to bolster that back line. Pretty good ins. I've been talking this one up as a great duo in defence. Not their finest performance, but I was happy to see them. Out Bonner, we sort of knew that was happening. Hugh Greenwood out, but was made the sub. And Paul Curtis was out. Some fans were calling for that. Personally, I was not, especially with the rain that was predicted. It didn't end up raining that much, to be honest, but yeah, a strange one because I think he's been fine. A little off game last week, but still has been popping up with a goal. Yeah, a weird one for me, and I personally wouldn't have dropped him, but I know there was a lot of calls for it. Yeah, Hugh Greenwood as the sub, I guess that's fine. He's been playing pretty well, better than a couple of guys in the team, but yeah, I wasn't unhappy with the team lineup, especially last week, after last week's performance. I think we're all pretty happy with it. Griffin, Logue, and Mackay are obviously instant ins. And yeah, we were all hoping for, a decent performance against the Lions. Did we get that? No. Well, yes and no. There's positives and there's negatives. So like usual, we're going to go through those now. Always going to start with positives because we're not setting the podcast off on a somber note. Harry Sheezel again. I mean, every single week, this guy is our best player, which is terrifying to say because he's played 5 games. But you can take that as negative, you can take that as positive, but hopefully other people see him and step up to his level because he's epitomising where we want to be in the next few years. Clarko did say something along those lines as well after the game, that where we are, where Brisbane were 3 or 4 years ago, or maybe a bit longer than that, and we're trying to get there. So that's an important thing to keep in mind. But the Shees was unbelievable. I don't know if you guys saw on the Marmalade TikTok page, they were handing out trays of cheesels to everybody, which is fantastic. And the North Closer to a Flag boys did go over there and get amongst it, which I'm sure they had a good time, except for, the scoreline. Am I right? My next point, Jaden Stevenson. Now, we need to give this guy a lot of credit. Guy got absolutely roasted by everybody last year, sometimes undeservingly. He was almost like the Kane Turner of last year, or the Daniel Howe, where even if he played okay, he really wouldn't get the credit. But he has been brilliant, especially the last couple of games, being our biggest threat up forward since Larky has sort of declined a little bit. But yeah, I thought Steve-O was brilliant. Dangerous, drifting into space in the forward line, accurate set shot in front of goal, and he's competing this year. So he's been a shining light, getting his spot every week, and Curtis can come back in alongside him, I think. But look, well done from Steve-O. Brilliant, mate. Charlie Comben. I thought he was great this game too. Great in the context of our performance. He was one of the better players. Kicked a couple, getting on the scoreboard finally, competing, clunked a couple of marks. it's going to be a long burn with Charlie Comben, guys. Anyone calling for Comben to get dropped after an average performance, a couple of things. We don't really have anyone else to bring in, but also bigs take longer to come on. So we want this guy to show his full potential, and he's going to be in this team nearly every single week, and I'm happy about that because I like the look of him. Don't get too carried away with the scoreline because Brisbane are a premiership contender, and I think we've had a little bit of a reality check. I still think we've performed better than I expected this year, which is a positive to take, but let's not get carried away after winning a couple of games. Brisbane is not a team that we should be, taking it right up to this year. Once again, people can take that negatively, people can take that positively, but from a realistic perspective, there's a group of teams which we're not meant to be on their level or close to their level yet. But that's the plan over the next few years. So let's not get carried away, but well done, Chom. Brilliant showing, and clunking those marks and kicking a few through the sticks. You bloody love to see it. Now, LDU continues to shine. Look, I don't think the last 2 weeks he's been quite as dominant, but his floor now is a lot higher. His average game is like mid-20 disposals and still like 5-6 clearances. But he's just cruising at the moment, doing what he does. Lions have a brilliant midfield with Brownlow medalists in there and things like that. So, look, let's not get too carried away losing the midfield battle. It was close, but look, we definitely got done in the middle. He continues to shine. Brilliant from LDU. Future Brownlow medal for him. 2025, 26, one of those years. I'm calling it now. But look, we love LDU. Once again, for most players this season, let's be patient and give them time. But LDU, fantastic. And I touched on this one before, but, let's not overreact. We aren't there yet. And I think that's the biggest thing to premise here is we won 2 games in a row. We got very excited. Obviously, Freo don't look to be the threat they were last year, but we have had 4 decent games. I know the Hawks one was one we should have won, but I think we've had 4 pretty good games with the comeback against the Hawks and the showing against the Blues and obviously the 2 wins. This was the only bad performance, but it didn't feel like last year still. We scored more points than we would have last year, and we were still a threat. We just got outclassed on the day. So I don't want people to overreact to this because the Lions are where we want to be in 3, 4, 5 years' time. So the criticism on the players, fair. You're allowed to criticise, fairly of course, but let's keep it realistic because the Lions are not a team we're meant to be taken up to at this point. Another point here, glad to see Buckets back. Give him time to get his feet. We'll touch on this in the negatives, but the back line was pretty atrocious. The guy hasn't played for a while, coming up against 2 decent forwards. I know people like to say that they're average forwards. They're not. Hipwood and Danaher on their day can be fantastic. So I know they're 2 sort of memeable players, but look, they can get off the leash anytime. Logue, I think, should have been better on the day. You know I love Griffin Logue, and he's my guy, and I'm not going to bail on him now. But Ben, that was legit too. I genuinely stuffed that up. Ben looked like a player who hadn't played yet this season. But once again, time, guys. Relax. These aren't the games meant to be winning. He'll find his feet, come up against a slightly weaker team, and he'll be back to his best. We know that. So the VFL performance, I guess that's sort of all the positives from the AFL sort of side. I don't want to just pick and try and find things when they're not there. I'm not going to try and sugarcoat it. But I did think all of those are genuine positives, and I guess relaxing and not getting over dramatic about this loss after the start we've had is the main point from all that. But the VFL team absolutely dominated the Swans, and we had some brilliant performers in that. I think one thing I was thinking about was and I've got the point here, if we are going to just bomb the ball long, let's go tall against the Suns and bring Coleman Jones in. I reckon it could be a brilliant play. The first 2 weeks of the season, we were hitting targets on the lead and we were finding people in the forward 50. We did come up against 2 lesser teams, and that was lost against the Hawks, but we did have Giant LDU out. If we're going to send this ball long all the time and play David Noble style into the 50, let's get another tall in there. If Larky's not performing on the day, If Chom isn't quite there, even though he was last game, I think Coleman Jones as a 3-tier forward line, but rotate them sort of through the bench and in and out of the ruck is a pretty good idea. CCJ has been decent in the VFL. I think he hit a couple last week, couple this week. He looks really physically strong. He's a big, big boy, and we saw how much the Tolls dominated us last week and this week. I am calling for CCJ to be coming in, going tall against the Suns, and because it's not working right now. Our forward entries are poor. There's a couple of times Bailey Scott was decent trying to put his head down and hit people, but it's not quite there yet. And we're bombing it into our forward line without looking way too much. So CCJ back in. Paul Curtis comes straight back in as well. 5 goals, did his time, went back to the VFL and kicked 5 in a dominating performance. He comes straight back in for me. So he was fantastic in that VFL game and showed his class. So, yeah, well done to Paul Curtis for going back, copping it on the chin and, putting his hand right up for selection next week. So that's sort of the positives I've got. Once again, try not to sugarcoat things. I think they're all pretty genuine positives from AFL and VFL level. But look, we don't want to just pretend and dig out positives when there isn't any, because as much as I'm saying don't overreact to the performance, compared to that Blues performance last week, it was very, very poor. Now, I did premise at the start of the podcast I am a bit sick, so I'm going to take a sip of my tea. Just give me 2 seconds. Ooh, that's good. That's good stuff. All right, negatives time. Backline was woeful. 100% zone and not man marking. Now, I've said this the last couple of weeks, and it was on display the most on the weekend, where how many times did we have somebody, the opposition player in their forward line, just sitting inside the 50 with nobody on them? We're not playing any man-on-man at the moment, and it baffles me. I'm no AFL coach, we know this, but we get exposed by our players pushing up the ground, and the Lions guys, like Joe Danaher kicked most of his goals from getting out the back and running onto it. Charlie Cameron did as well. I don't understand it. I'm not sure what Clarkson's doing. I would have thought Clarkson was better than that because it's so glaringly obvious. Stick to your man, or if you're going to play a zone, don't drift off so far, because we do turn the ball over in the middle a lot. We're playing really aggressively, and I like to see that. But if we are going to turn it over, it's going straight over our heads, and there's a guy 30 metres in the clear, and we've got no chance whatsoever. That happened so many times, and I know you guys know that too. Last week it happened. The week before against the Hawks it happened. I don't know what the first 2 weeks was, but it's very, very different defensively to what we're playing now by the looks of it to me. So, look, play on your man. It's like footy 101. Like your Oz kick, man up. Everyone knows that. I don't understand it. If it was working and you're playing zone and we got, a couple out the back, fine. It is what it is. But we're getting dominated on that end. Marks inside the 50 for the Lions, or just in general. I've got the stat here. We took 9 marks inside our forward 50. They took 33. And if that doesn't premise what I just said about manning up and sort of going between zone and man-on-man, I don't know what is. I'm not sure how you look at that stat and go, yeah, let's keep playing a zone, pushing, 15, 20 metres off our players, and when a ball gets turned over quickly, we're no chance to get back. So that's an atrocious stat. I hate looking at that, so I'm going to actually delete that now because I'm getting sad. But yeah, gross. All right. A guy I've actually praised a little bit in the last couple of weeks, Aiden Core. Now, if you listen to the first few podcasts, we know my thoughts on Aiden Core. Last year, he was easily our worst player and an atrocious defender. I don't know why he was in that team. I'd rather play Kane Turner at fullback. This year, he's been okay. He's been a lot better and have been a lot stronger in contest, but he was awful yesterday. By far the weakest point in our back line. Any contest he was in, the ball didn't come to ground. He didn't really put up a challenge. He got dominated, whoever he was playing on. So it's time to get Aiden Core out of this team because, yeah, that was a gross performance. And I know there's a bit of bias here, and I'm not going to pretend like there's no bias because I've got some favourites and some not favourites. But I just think Aiden Core is not what we need in the back line. We've got Mackay, we've got Logue now. He's lost. And the times he could have made an impact yesterday, he didn't. So it's time for Core to go, I think. Turner as well. I mean, look, every single week we're bashing on this. I think his last couple of weeks were okay. He definitely played his best game of the season against the Blues. People can tell me about his pressure acts all they want. It didn't mean anything yesterday, and it hasn't meant much for the season, to be honest. He's getting 6 touches a game. He's getting 6 touches. He can't kick the ball. He doesn't have clean disposal. Yeah, he puts pressure on, but there's a player, and I don't know who this player is. I could name heaps, but players should be putting pressure on anyway. You can't just have a guy in this team just for pressure acts, because if he gets the ball and we're, attacking, useless. So it's time for Turner to go. I think, I have sort of said this in the last few weeks, and you can take it as bias, but genuinely putting my bias aside, he was irrelevant and poor, and somebody can do his job plus impact offensively. I've said this for weeks now, but look, what else do you want me to say? We missed a lot of tackles. A lot of times we're standing in front of somebody and the players will just walk around our guys. It happened a lot. Like, I don't know if you guys noticed that too, but especially sort of along our 50-meter line, so many players would just run past our defenders, and the times we did get hands on them, we wouldn't bring them to ground or we wouldn't tackle them hard enough to affect their disposal. North do this all the time, especially last year and the year before, where the ball will hit the ground and there is just a swarm of the opposition players, and all of our players, like backside to the contest, are standing far away, and we're outnumbered. It's just confusing to me. So hopefully we can stick our tackles. Sorry, I'm talking a little bit slower between gaps, guys. My throat's killing me. Hang on, one more sip of tea. Just give me this one. Oh yes, that one was a quieter one for you. Thank you for letting me do that. We got a real reality check. I mean, that's just pretty standard stuff. I mean, I do agree both sides here, where I did say before, let's not overreact, but we did also get a reality check, and I think every fan's expectation has come down slightly. Once again, I do honestly believe we're better than I thought we'd be, and I think we'll take it up to the mid-tier and lower-tier teams. But teams in like the top, especially top 4 or top 6, that's not our bag this year. So, yeah, let's not worry too much, but we did sort of come back down to earth with the scoreline. But to swing it positive again, I do think we played better than we would have last year when losing by that margin. We just defensively were awful, but we would have scored like 40 points last year. So, yeah. And the last negative here, Jai Simpkin injury. I don't really know what it is. I think he might have broken his hand. Maybe that gives Wardlaw a chance to come in and show what he can do against the Suns. But yeah, it's bad to see that. Hand injuries, even if it's like a hairline fracture, usually take 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks. So I hope he comes back quicker than that and it's not too bad. But look, we'll get word in the next few days and I'll share it on all of the socials and things like that to keep you guys updated. But yeah, not good to see our captain injured, unfortunately. That being said, that's the last negative. But talking of the socials, Further North Podcast on Facebook and Further North Pod on Instagram. I'm always asking for your questions and feedback. We've got our Sean Atley Club Champ on there, our Nostalgic Player of the Week. I'm always posting up to get your thoughts on a player you probably forgot about. It's a good time. So get on that. And also the lads who are always sort of backing me up here. North Melbourne Close to a Flag. If you don't follow that page, please do. Funny banter, content, just brilliant stuff, really. The content you didn't know you wanted, but you really, really needed. So get on that. It'll make your life a lot better. So viewer question time. Stick with me through this one, guys, but I'll read it as best I can. Facebook first, we've got Troy McGaffin. Yuck, with the vomiting emoji. That is all. Yeah, probably a passionate comment straight after the siren went, but I think those positives and negatives I talked about are all pretty accurate. But yes, out of all the games this year, the most yuck for sure. Tristan Cook. Aidan Bonner is our best key back, and I'll die on this hill. Tristan, you are wrong. Thank you for your comment. That is an awful take, and Bono's barely VFL quality. No, that's a lie. Look, Bono's not as bad as everyone thinks, but I think he might be on the level of Core. I did say last week maybe I'd have him over Core, but no, he's absolutely not. Ben O'Regan didn't play to our structures today. Got bashed around the ball and couldn't deal with the Lions' frontal pressure when transitioning from our back line. Absolutely. You're a young team, we're a young team, and it will take some time and hard lessons to occur before we are a good side. Example, Wilfield not pushing up to cover Berry, who got an easy kick for goal 20 metres out. Still plenty of work with, in brackets, she's a beauty. Our time will come. Go Roos. Agree 100%. Sort of mirrors my comments. This isn't a team we're meant to be fighting with right now. Give it time. Let's not overreact. So Shane Seamer. Need to gather around a few beers and chat this one out. Absolutely, mate. Hopefully everybody at home or over in Adelaide got royally blasted just to get rid of those sorrows, because we know the answer to your problems is excessive drinking. Mitchell Bai. I think there are still positives. She's was great. Big C clunking some marks. Steve-O looks at home finally, and I'm all for it. Definitely lacked the defensive structure we needed, but that's expected with a young, growing group learning to play together. Things will get better. Last year, we lose this game by 130. Progress has been made and will continue to be made. Head up, Roos fans. Sorry there, guys. Yeah, couldn't agree more. 100% spot on. Mitchell, you're a smart man. Guiliano Marator. I apologise, mate. I'm so sorry. I'm from Country Tassie. Let me know how to say that if you want to message me after. But he says, can we drop the whole team and play the reserves? No, absolutely not. Frustration after the game, but that's fine. Let's not overreact. But it did feel like that when that siren went, until my head had a little bit of time to calm down. David Brown. Lucky needs to hit up the footy. He wants it all the time out the back and never plays in front. Yeah, I kind of agree. The first 2 weeks, he definitely didn't do that. But the last few weeks, yeah, he's not playing in front and leading. We are just bombing the ball long. So I think it's not all Nick Larkey's fault. We need better service to him, and he needs to lead more because he's always calling for it long, and he's not a pack mark taker. Jesse Stevenson, regular commenter. We have to stop giving away free kicks in our defensive 50, 100%. Although it wouldn't have changed the outcome of the game, it still would have stopped the momentum swing, just as it would have last week. Yep, completely agree. We are sloppy. Defense is clearly our biggest weakness right now. Ryder Savage Rawson. Danaher looks like Ned Flanders. Yeah, you know what? If he slicked his hair back more with a bit of pomade, you might be spot on there. If anyone's on Photoshop, sketch that up and we'll post it. Glenn Lavender, regular again, slowly Comben finding his feet. Even with a drubbing, he managed to get a bit of form. I don't agree with the Larky never coming at the ball. If you'd been the full forward to our team the last 3 years, you'd have no confidence to lead because this delivery is erratic. We'll have these days. They suck, but they're part of the journey. We don't suck. We're maybe not as good as we thought after the first few rounds. We're a lot better than last year. But I do agree with you that it's a process and we need to relax. Oscar Loveday. I noticed the speed of Cunners just isn't cutting it. He is a legend, full-time legend. Would like to see Aaron Hall come in for Howe. His DE is too low. Has a crack. Is slowly improving, and Clarkson must have some kind of secret going on with him. Okay, Hal, have a crack, and if it doesn't come off, no worries, because we have a secret plan for you. A plan no one else knows. Will Phil's little goal was nice to see, and love the chomp. Yeah, and Lucky needs to be managed. Bring in CCJ. I agree with a lot of that. Look, Cunner's game's never been about speed. I think he's just got to start playing a different role as an in and under player. He was good at the start of the year, so I'm not worried about Cunnington. It's on Phillips and LDU and Powell and guys like that to run past him and get the hands. So if those guys step up, Cunnington is going to be a product of how good our midfield is. And yep, CCJ, bring him in. What was Brad Jamison? Sorry, man. What was our defensive structure after quarter time? Core, Mackay and Logue just pointing at each other and playing 20 metres in front of their man with an open 50 and no control of possession. Have never seen this game plan before, and I hope I never see it again. Very, very true. Touched on that. In the pros and cons, it's all zone. Also, now that Clarko has gifted Daniel Howe his 100th game, get him off the list. Hit a target with his free kick and then wasted his other 22 possessions. Can't justify having Kane turn in the team anymore. 5 touches and 0 tackles is absolutely painful. Shizu is quickly becoming the only positive to come out of this season. I agree and disagree with that. I do think Howe and Turner have to go. I know people like the other room admins are liking Daniel Howe at the moment. We did discuss a little bit of this last week, but I think Daniel Howe should go as well. He's not going to get any better than this, so bin him off. And Kane Turner as well. Shoes was not the only positive. LDU and Griffin Logue, I think, have been brilliant. Griffin Logue struggled last week, but look, it's a season as a whole, and we're clearly moving the ball better, playing as a team better, and have more structure. I'm not saying it's good, but we've got more. Jill Gipton Edmonds. Number 1, never drop Paul Curtis. Agree. Number 2, can Zerha never wear a long sleeve jumper? Yes, agree. He was very poor on the day, by his normal standards anyway. Number 3, Kane Turner and Daniel Howe out, never to return. Agree as well. And the last comment, Paul Minotti, another regular commenter. After a good first quarter, it was all sown downhill from here. Great to see Chom taking some good contested marks. Great to see Shizu kick his first goal. Great to see Steve-O continue his great season. Yep, agree 100% with all of those. This is the stuff we've really got to stick to this season because, if we don't find the positives, it's going to be rough for us. So, look, guys, let's not overreact like I've been saying. All right, Instagram comments time. Thank you again at Further North Pod on Instagram. Every week we'll get your questions and I'll read out all of them, or if there's heaps, we'll have to pick some of the best. First question from Kyle Lautier, 17. Sorry, mate, if I butchered it. Tried something with pushing our defence up. Didn't work. Play on. Clarko's still at the wheel. Yeah, I agree. We've done this, defending high up for a few weeks now. It needs to go. Maybe not go completely, but it's clearly not working and we're giving goals out the back way too often. Next Instagram question from Holly Hazeldine. Thank you for your message, Holly. Good chat to you before, and apologies if I butchered that like we know I do. Thoughts on the game? Couldn't fit in your story. First quarter was exciting, felt like it went downhill from there and wasn't fun to watch by the end. What happened with the defence? Happy to see Steve-O get a few, and I thought Common played well. Good to see a few different goal kickers in the first quarter too. If only we could do that for all 4. Yep, I agree with you. We'll get there. Once again, we'll get there, guys. Let's not overreact. We don't want to be doing that. But yeah, very true, Holly. Brighton Isles, another regular. By far, Shizu's worst game yet. Oh, it's a very high bar though, isn't it? Kid still got 31 disposals and a goal. Rising star, thank you. Great start to get out of an 18-point lead. Lions' experience showed in the end. Our time will come. Yeah, I agree. I guess, yeah, Shizu's worst game, maybe, if you're, still thinking if 31 disposals is bad for the Shis, I'll take that every day. Reese Delaney, 87, another reg. This zone defense. Push up the ground. Gear can be risky as shit when you cough up the footy. I think we're all starting to notice this high footy. I just can't believe that they're not understanding you can't leave your opponent in the 50 alone. But what do I know about footy? Nick Vargas.mp4. Oh, hang on. Ball use from defence, awful. Handball use frustrating, like he needs to find form. Yep, I agree. Transition from defence was good the first few weeks, but we're just running out of options and sending it long again. If we stop sending it as long, Larky's going to find form. So I'm not too worried yet. Once again, Brisbane is not a team we should be messing with at the moment. Joseph_Baines 27. We were just outclassed. I live in Brisbane, so I'm going to cop it. We'll be at the Suns game. Look, give us some insight on the Suns game. I'm going to try and do a little preview podcast. So we're going to try and do 2 a week from now on. I'll talk about that after the questions, but you can be our insider on the Suns game, Joseph. Victory demands dedication. Strong name. It's hard to sign up for membership year after year when blokes earning 6 times my salary don't. And it does cut off there, but I'm assuming you said something like don't perform. It is hard. I'm not a big supporter of memberships all the time. I think memberships are good if you can go and it's convenient for you. I do think membership, even MCC and things like that, are a little bit of propaganda just to guilt trip you into paying the club every single year. I don't believe being a member means you're more loyal than a fan. Some people might be upset at that. And if you have been a member the whole time, I applaud you. And you are obviously a true North lifer. But I don't know. I've actually never been a member of North Melbourne. I grew up in Tasmania and I watch them every week and try and go to games. So it's completely up to you if you want to sign up for a membership or not. Don't feel pressured just because it is posed like you're a better fan. Alex_Nancaro. Grimwatch. Poor centre bounce clearances. No defence structure in sight. Yep, 100%. Couldn't agree more. Instagram seems to be on it with the defence this episode. Cozzy_. You'll never sing that. You'll never sing that. Sold out Mount Barker. You'll never see that. I hope the Close to a Flag lads were screaming that at the game. I'm sure there's a few damaged voice boxes after that, but when we play there next year, maybe we all get down there and do that. We've got Harvey_Sutherland. Thought Will, Phil, Chom and Steve were shining lights. Absolutely. Defense was a shambles. McDonald plus Suv plus Core equals dead. McDonald and Suv, keep him in the team. Too much talent and too important to us. Not a good game. Core, yep, completely agree. Bin him off ASAP. I don't know, he just doesn't compete enough for me. And if we've got Logue and Mackay down back, it's too tall. It's just absolutely too tall when opposition teams are hitting players on the lead in our defensive 50. So thank you for those questions, guys. Remember, Further North pod on Instagram. Get your questions in every single week. All right, so now it's 5-star review time. Remember, if you leave me 5 stars on Apple Podcasts, I'll read your comment out as well. Really helps me get the show up in the algorithm. So thank you to everyone who's done that. And I have also found that you can write things on Spotify. So if you scroll down, there's a little what do you think of this episode section. If you comment on there as well, I'll read it out. So we've got a couple this week on Apple. We've got nice work from PT Poo. Nice work, Josh and mates. This is a terrific addition to the hashtag Kangaroos podcast. Yeah, that's a good podcast as well. Little bit of inspiration to start my own. I love listening to that one. Yeah, Dean does a great job on that and gets some decent guests as well. Dean is very supportive of everything North Melbourne, including other podcasts. Keep it up, guys. Absolutely. Thank you so much, PD Poo, and keep doing the good job. Hashtag Kangaroos podcast. We've got one from Chef of Salvation, 5 stars, Good Friday. I'm 2 weeks behind. Great podcast. I listen to hashtag Kangaroos podcast weekly. Awesome, mate. Keep up the good work. I won't read a middle bit in there because it's a little bit commenting on another podcast, but look, let's keep it respectful. Your comment, North are lucky to have kept the Good Friday spot. Believe me when I say this, the AFL are not stupid and they will never take the Good Friday game away from North Melbourne. What the so-called experts, journalists, never bring up about this game is the amount of work that goes on behind the scenes. North are the driving force behind all this. Yeah, no, I do agree. Look, we've always known that North have pushed Friday night footy and the Good Friday game. I think the only reason we may have gestured towards that is because of the last few results. But that performance last week, we're locked in now. All right, Spotify. This is my first time doing this, so I've found them here. George Brown, really enjoying the pods. Thumbs up. Keep them up. Thank you so much, mate. Oh, I can publish them. I'm going to publish all of these. Jay Walden, can't have a losing mentality in a rebuild like we had last year. Need to play even after an injury ASAP, especially Mackay. Yep, it's a process, guys. Please, let's not overreact and think it's like last year. It's a process. And the last one, Sam, love this. A great combo of known bias, banter, and valid review. Thank you. I actually appreciate that. So we always try and do. We want North bias here because we love the club, but let's not lose our heads. North have been missing this type of podcast. Keep it up. Thank you so much, Sam. Publish your comment as well. Now what we'll do, we're not too far off finishing this one, guys. Thank you for sticking with me with my voice as well. It's been a shocker. We're going to do the Sean Atlee Club Champ votes. So, obviously a bit of an average performance, but the 3-2-1 this week. One vote, Charlie Comben. Competed well, got on the scoreboard. I like what I'm seeing from Chom in that game. Keep it up and he'll get there. Time, guys. Sheasel 2, 31 touches. May not have been his best game, but his bar is so high. He was just class around the ball and kicking his first goal. You love to see it. And Stevenson, 3 votes. Very stiff not to get in the votes last week, but I've given him 3. So the leaderboard update, the Shees is running away with this. Shees is on 10 votes, LDU 4, Logue 4, Larky 3, Zerha 3, Stevenson 3, Zeeble Cunnington, and Comben all on 1 vote. So our rookie is leading the way and more than doubled LDU. Hopefully those two can fight it out, but that's the way I see it in our season so far. So we're just going to touch on Tarryn Thomas. Now, as we've all seen in the last week or so, he posted a video of him driving with his feet up on the dash. Now, I'm going to give you my opinion on his situation. If you don't agree with it, that's completely fine. I'm trying to be as neutral as possible and look at it from all angles. Once again, if you don't agree with it, completely fine, but I'm going to give you, my thoughts. So, firstly, we already knew about the allegations, which are not good. Still got to do the court hearing and all that sort of stuff as far as I'm aware. But that video, firstly, a 22-year-old doesn't accidentally send it to more people than they were meant to. That doesn't happen. Unless you're 45, 50 years old and you can't use a phone, that doesn't happen. So that was a cover-up. I agree. I can't remember what pundit said it, but that video is a cry for help. And I completely agree. He's a young man at the moment who needs support and discipline at the same time. For me, kicking him out of the club right now is the absolute worst thing you could do for this guy. And it's not even about playing football at this point. It's about a young man's life and setting him up to succeed in the future, whether that's playing football or not. And that's the thing I want to preface. If you kick him out of the club now at his lowest point with what it seems, what's he going to do? Go down the path of drugs, alcohol. He'll be driving like that again, drunk or high or something like that, hit another car and he could kill somebody. And it's harsh and that's a pretty graphic thing to think about, but this is the realities of the situation. Young men are incredibly volatile. Imagine anyone else at 22 years old getting all that money and dealing with the things he dealt with personally last year. And he's made the mistakes on how he's treated women, which is disgusting. And he needs to learn from that, which he hasn't shown. But being 22 years old, he's got so much to learn. And I know we hold AFL players to a higher standard, which we absolutely should because of their paychecks. But like I said, it's about a life thing right now. He needs to be back in the club. He needs to be around his mates, supported, and in a better environment to do what he needs to do. I'm not saying he'll come back and do his program thing that they've made, whatever that is, and he'll play again. It's a life thing right now, and he needs to be around his mates and supported because we don't want to see a player, going off the rails and hurting other people out on the streets and being a menace. Everyone deserves a chance. You can have your opinion if you think he's had enough or not, but don't forget this is a young 22-year-old who needs to learn, who, has had a chance to learn, hasn't done it yet, but it's not a point to kick someone out right now. So I'm rooting for you, Tarryn. You've screwed up and you've done some bad things you need to learn from, but time to switch on. This is your last chance. So, look, that's all I'll say on it, but agree or disagree, that's my opinion. So now before we do our round review, just a shout out to North legend Boomer Harvey. Pretty bad leg injury, broke his leg. Heidelberg, I think, is his team. So just a quick shout out. Hope you get better, Boomer. And you can come back and play for North anytime you want. So let's just recap a little bit of the round quickly, and then we're just about done. So Thursday, gather round, opening game. Adelaide destroyed Carlton. Are Adelaide good or Carlton bad? I think Adelaide are good. But as we've seen this year, and going off our tips last week, no one's got any idea who's going to win games this season. So Crows got up in a big one, but I wouldn't say the Crows are top 4, but I wouldn't say the Blues are bad. And I'm very confused. Dockers and the Suns, what a game. Not a good game on paper, but Freo with the late comeback and got the chockies there. Obviously, we're playing the Suns next week, so I'm glad the Suns lost that. And we beat the Dockers, so we're the greatest. We are massive. Richmond and the Swans, yeah, Richmond look average. I think I posted at the start of the year with my ladder predictions. The Tigers will be a bit mediocre. They're definitely not top 4. They should still get into the 8. I think I put them 6th. That's probably their ceiling. Yeah, look like a pretty average team, and like predicted as well by me. Look at me go. The Swans are very, very good. Let's not judge them off one game. They had one bad game last year, and it was the grand final. Other than that, young, talented team. They're always coming back. We'll skip over our game. Essendon, Melbourne, the Bombers. I'm so confused once again. Are the Bombers good? Why? Should we get Brad Scott back? I don't know. Good on the Bombers, I guess, but, who cares about them? D's are my premiership pick. I'm sticking with them, but, geez, they got some work to do. All these players for the Bombers I've never heard of are all popping up now. So I did say they didn't have much talent and looking to prove me wrong so far, so I'll stick my hand up. The Power got the win. Yuck. Who cares about the Power? Don't want to talk about them. The Bulldogs, I wish he absolutely belted them, but probably another poor game from Mr. No Ice Bath. Keep booing him too. I know people don't like the booing, but when you act like he did for a year, the ungrateful young man, you deserve it. So agree with me or not, don't care, boo him. The Cats, they're sort of coming back, but they've beat probably the 2 West teams in the league. But Geelong will probably make the 8 still, so a dominant win there. Giants, Hawks, another wooden spoon sort of game here. Giants by 2. There was a lot of ebbs and flows in that game, but I'm glad the Giants won because, we need to flog the Hawks next time. And the game that's just finished, Collingwood and St Kilda. Late fight back from the Saints. Collingwood seemed, better for the majority of the game. It was there or thereabouts, and the Pies sort of broke out in the last, the third and the fourth quarter, and a very, very late comeback, but just a little bit too late. The Saints had plenty of opportunities, but just didn't capitalise any of them, kicking a lot of points. But the Saints do seem legit this year, which is another baffler. So, is this good for North, bad for North? All the teams are probably mid instead of great and not great. Don't know yet. I think we'll know a bit more after next week. But speaking of next week, I'm going to try and do 2 podcasts a week now. Keeps this one a tiny bit shorter, and I'll try and get it out Thursday morning as just like a 20-minute preview, talk about the changes I want to make in the team. I think we need some, we need to shake things up now. It's been the same team for the first 5 games, and we've dropped off. I'm not unhappy with how we're playing, I guess, but it could be a lot better. So I'm going to try my best, depending on my sickness, so bear with me, to get a preview podcast out Thursday mornings. So, yeah, let me know, guys. So, lastly, obscure player of the week. Now, if any of you guys saw on the socials, I post this up and get your favourite memories of some players. So I'm going to read some out right now. But let's talk about it first. Corey Jones. Corey Jones, the greatest player ever. I said in my post, extra points if you can name a memory that isn't the one of him kicking a snap on the boundary line. So we've got a message from Adrian Mariano. Corey Jones, 2005 against Port. Huge role in our big comeback against the reigning premiers. 5 goals, 21 touches and 12 marks. Down by 40 at halftime, we win by 4. Makepeace kicked a nice running goal that day too. Shout out to Troy Makepeace, Bay 29 legend. And yes, brilliant Corey Jones memory there, guys. I love Corey Jones. I don't know. He's one of the more nostalgic ones for me, I think. A couple on the Instagram as well. From M_DeLucas, the night we went to the Albion with him. All right, sounds like you'd like to get on the sauce. Harley Harbour. I remember bumping into CJ at Cheers nightclub on a Tuesday night after the VFL flag in 2010 with half the North boys. Well, he was smashing down $2 vodka raspberries like a king. Jeez, he seems to like to get on the sauce. But if you perform as well as Corey Jones, you deserve it. Kyle Lautier, 17. Kieran Harper next. All right, guys. Kieran Harper will be there. Relax. And the last comment on Corey Jones. Peter D. Flaherty. A regular now. Yes, nice one, lads. After the almost legend that was Turtle. So Lee Harding last week. My childhood hero is coming back. My favourite CJ story was when he had an upset stomach in the rooms before a Docklands game. I promised the storyteller I wouldn't give him up. A smooth, and if you can guess this guy off this description, a smoothly skilled backman who played over 100 games. I'm going to say Jess Sinclair, that's my guess. But anyway, and his gas cleared half the rooms and almost meant he didn't play. Look, we seem to be remembering Corey Jones off the field here, but sounds like a brilliant bloke. I loved him. Shout out to Corey Jones. Every week on the socials again, we're going to put up a nostalgic play you probably forgot, and I want your memories. So thank you very much, guys, for listening again. Thank you for battling through this one with me. It's been a rough one. I need to go and have more tea and lay down. My body is dying. So thank you once again. The podcast is doing very, very well. The listens are going up, and I love your interaction on all the socials. So yeah, follow all those. Follow North Melbourne Close to a Flag for all their brilliant content. Bay 29 news, when it's necessary, will always be there. Get amongst the lads. And hopefully the preview podcast for the Suns will be out on Thursday morning, body dependent. So give me a break if I don't. But the next week, we should be fine. So thanks again, guys. And make sure you're doing the kangas because I can't today.
Thanks for listening to the Further North podcast. We'll be back next week with more great North chat. See you then, Roos fans.